What historic site was nearly destroyed for its view? Stick around and I'll take you on a walk through the Pilot Knob Historic Site. The Pilot Knob Historic Site is at the north end of Pilot Knob Road in Mendota Heights. Since it's not well marked, I've included the address in the description if you want to use your GPS to find it. Pilot Knob is in the Minnesota River Valley near its confluence with the Mississippi River. It's very near a couple of other historic sites, including the Henry Sibley House in Mendota and Fort Snelling across the river. And looking at the map, you can also see that this historic site shares the top of the hill with Acacia Park Cemetery. The site is also a bit noisy from both cars and planes, since it's near a major highway and the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport. As we begin, I'd like to remind you that this video is a shortened version of my actual walk through the site. My purpose is to encourage you to walk these trails for yourself and to learn more about its significance. I estimate that you could spend about 45 minutes to an hour walking the trails and taking in the view. If you're interested in birding, wildflowers, or photography, you could easily spend much more time here. As you probably noticed when I began this walk, there was a gate across Pilot Knob Road. Currently, that gate is the only indication you're at the correct location. I'm now walking down the abandoned portion of Pilot Knob Road. While it once was a through street, it's now a dead end. On the left side of the road is Acacia Park Cemetery, and at one time there were a couple of homesteads or truck farms on the right side of the road. Except for this abandoned portion of Pilot Knob Road, the trails are crushed gravel and in good condition, but watch out for any erosion, particularly where the asphalt ends. There is a bit of elevation change since we're basically on the top of a hill, but the elevation change is very gradual. Note that at the time I filmed this walk, there were no facilities here other than a portable toilet in the parking lot. It's also noisy since it's bordered by a major highway and it's near the runways of the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport. I've now reached the main part of the site and the crushed gravel trail. Back in 2002, to take advantage of the views of the river valley in downtown Minneapolis, a developer announced plans to build about 150 townhomes on this site. That plan sparked the Native American community, local residents, the city of Mendota Heights, environmental groups, and others to try and preserve this site. In 2006 and 2007, the city was able to purchase the land from the private landholders. In all, the site encompasses about 112 acres. It's now managed as a natural area that is open to the public. Why was it so important to preserve this site? To the Dakota, this site was known as Oheyawahi, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which means a hill much visited. It was a site where the Dakota held their ceremonies and councils, and where they buried their dead. As you walk the site, there's not much here to tell you about the history of the site. Be sure to pick up the brochure that should be available in the parking lot, or look for it online. In addition to the brochure, there are two interpretive signs. The first one is just off the main trail. After the European settlers arrived, Pilot Knob was proposed as the site for the territorial capital, which eventually landed in St. Paul. However, one of the most significant events that happened here was the signing of the Treaty of Mendota in 1851. In the Treaty of Mendota, the Dakota ceded 35 million acres of their land to the federal government. This amounted to about 1/3 of the current state of Minnesota. A plaque, now in Acacia Park Cemetery, commemorates the signing of the Treaty of Mendota on Pilot Knob. Because of its significance to the Dakota and its role in the formation of the state of Minnesota, Pilot Knob was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 2017. The site has 3 overlooks. The main overlook is the 7 council fires. It consists of 7 limestone blocks that represent the 7 fires or divisions of the Sioux Nation. 4 of the stones represent the Eastern Dakota or Santee Sioux. 2 stones represent the Western Dakota or Nakota, and 1 stone represents the Lakota. The Sioux Nation extended from the Mississippi River in Minnesota to Montana, and from Nebraska to Manitoba and Saskatchewan in Canada. The stones are intended to give visitors a place to sit and look over the river valley. From the 7 council fires overlook, you have an expansive view of the Mississippi and Minnesota river valleys. Fort Snelling is visible through the trees, and downtown Minneapolis is in the distance. Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport is to the left, and St. Paul is to the right. Since it's hard to see Fort Snelling in downtown Minneapolis in this video, I put a telephoto lens on my camera and took this photo of the fort and the city from the 7 council fires overlook. Pilot Knob is over 100 feet higher than Fort Snelling across the river. When the U.S. Army was locating the fort, they reportedly came to Pilot Knob to make sure the hill couldn't be used by enemy artillery to shell the fort. I'm now walking back up the hill and passing the second of the interpretive signs on the site. While the Dakota referred to the hill as Oheyawahi, the European settlers called the hill Pilot Knob. The name Pilot Knob refers to the distinctive knob-like formation on the top of the hill. The knob-like formation was a landmark to riverboat and steamboat pilots as they navigated up the Mississippi and Minnesota rivers. Are you wondering where that distinctive knob-like formation is today? Well, in the 1920s, the Acacia Park Cemetery Association purchased a portion of Pilot Knob for a cemetery, the cemetery that's here today. As part of the grading or landscaping for the cemetery, they removed about 20 feet from the top of the hill, so the knob is long gone. If you go to the entrance to the cemetery, the knob was just beyond the entrance, about at the location of the parking lot, and near the stone holding the treaty plaque. To get an idea of what the hill looked like with its distinctive feature, you need to look at early drawings of the site, like the one from Seth Eastman. In the description, there's a link to the online version of the brochure the Pilot Knob Preservation Association created. On the cover is a painting by Seth Eastman showing Pilot Knob around 1847. The site has also gone through an extensive project to restore the native vegetation. Goats and sheep were used to eat the turf grasses that were planted around the homesteads on the site. All the work done on the site has returned it to the more natural prairie and oak savanna that it originally was. The work seems pretty successful. While I was there in late summer, many butterflies and bees were feeding on the wildflowers. I'm trying to get better at identifying plants and, in this case, insects. I hope my identification of these butterflies that I photographed when I visited the site is correct. If not, leave me a comment below. I'm now coming up to the main intersection of the trails on the site. Turning right takes you back to the parking lot. Going straight takes you to the southernmost of the 2 remaining overlooks. However, I'm going to turn left or north to walk to the northernmost overlook. Both of the remaining overlooks are marked with stone patterns that are meant to represent a medicine wheel. I believe the Native American tribes use medicine wheels in their health and healing ceremonies. The view from this overlook includes the highway, the Mendota Bridge, and downtown Minneapolis. Because the overlook is so close to the highway, it's very noisy here. Well, that's a look at the northernmost overlook and its medicine wheel. I'm now going to walk back to the main intersection so I can take the trail to the southernmost overlook. Here's the main intersection of the trails again. The parking lot is straight ahead. The path to the Seven Council Fires overlook would be to the right, but I'm taking the path to the left so I can walk to the remaining overlook. For anyone who isn't all that interested in history, this site offers other reasons for visiting it and walking the trails. As I've mentioned before, the site has been restored to its native prairie and oak savanna. Wildflowers and native grasses, as you probably noticed in the video, have now been reestablished. If you visit the site between late spring through early fall, you'll likely find some wildflowers that are in bloom. Perhaps you're a birder. The site is part of the Mississippi River Flyway, so it's a good place to spot seasonal or migrating birds. The best time for observing the seasonal migration is May in the spring and then September-October in the fall. Of course, there are year-round residents here as well. The Audubon Society includes this site and other adjacent areas in its Important Bird Area program. When I visited the site, I've also encountered a number of photographers. Whether it's the broad view of the river valley, the wildflowers, or the birds, there's plenty here to inspire the photographer. The southernmost overlook has a medicine wheel similar to the northern overlook. This overlook is closer to the highest point of the hill, which is in Acacia Park Cemetery, so it provides a view of a good portion of the site itself. We're now getting to the end of our walk here. As a senior, I want to remain physically active and mentally sharp as I age. Walking and always learning new things is part of my strategy to do that. While the site does not offer the most extensive trails for walking, there are a lot of other opportunities in the vicinity for longer walks. You could take a walk on the Big Rivers Regional Trail or walk the trails in Fort Snelling State Park. However, this site is a good way to engage your mind, whether it's learning about Native American history, military history, state history, prairie restoration, or birding. This site offers a lot to help you keep learning new things too.